So creatine is incredibly popular at the moment, but if you want to be smarter about understanding whether you should take it, what it is, why you should take it, and also the best way to do it to maximize your health, I'm going to go through this framework that I set out in this video here to help you understand whether any supplement is not only right, but right for you and how to decide that. And today I'm going to go through the whole of creatine and everything that you need to know to be smarter than the average person taking it and to help you decide whether it's right for you. So firstly, what is creatine and why would we consider taking it? So creatine is a naturally occurring molecule that contains nitrogen. It's made from amino acids, the building blocks of protein, and it's stored in your muscles and your brain. I'll talk a little bit later about exactly how it works because it does matter for understanding this supplement. But the very simple explanation is that creatine helps you rapidly regenerate energy during short, intense bursts of activity. You get creatine from food sources like meat and fish, and supplementing simply boosts these stores so that your muscles can perform better and recover more effectively. One reason why it's popular with athletes and gym goers. So the reason that we're taking it isn't to prevent a specific disease, it's for our general health. And really, when we're deciding between the lifespan or the health span that we're trying to increase, it's really our health span. We're trying to improve cognitive performance, improve our exercise tolerance and ability to perform, and that indirectly is going to hopefully increase our lifespan. There is one gene called the AMPD1, which is associated with, if you have that gene, you have a greater increase in muscle mass when taking creatine. But as you'll hear me say in a lot of these supplementation videos, and you can go to the Health Mapping Clinic website to get a full database of all the common and popular supplements and help you have a smarter understanding of why you're taking them, whether you should take them, how to know whether they're working. One of the things that you'll hear me say regularly is it's really important to measure, implement it, and then measure again, because how do we know something is working unless we are at least tracking in some way the differences before we've taken it and after we've started taking it? So one important question is there a biomarker in the blood that is going to tell me whether this is working or not? And the answer with creatine is no. But that doesn't mean that we still can't be methodical about it. We can measure subjective things like our performance in the gym, for example, our levels of energy. It's also conferring some cognitive benefits, as we'll talk about later. So am I mentally sharper? Am I feeling like my memory's better? Those sorts of things. We still want to measure and kind of maybe keep a diary of how we're doing before, then how we're doing after we've started taking it. The next thing we'll touch on is how exactly does it work? What are the benefits and some of the potential risks of taking it? And what's the actual science saying to confirm all of this? So to explain this first, I'm going to very quickly explain how muscles get the energy to contract. There is a molecule called adenosine triphosphate. And actually, if I get my keys, I can show you how it works because it's got 3 phosphate particles on it. So if you imagine something like that, right? And what happens is, so you imagine these 3 things on my keyring, as it loses one of these, it gives it, so I've just cut my fingernail, so it's going to be difficult for me to get this off. Now this adenosine triphosphate, as it goes round and it loses a phosphate, the energy allows the muscle to contract. Now this becomes adenosine diphosphate because it's only got 2 phosphates on it. So it goes back round and it will then collect from somewhere else a new phosphate to become adenosine triphosphate again. So then it has the energy to give to the muscle again. And it basically just goes round and round, giving and collecting a phosphate atom to give energy to the muscle to contract. Now all that creatine is doing is just allowing a big source of these phosphates to give to the ADP, to make it ATP, to give energy. So it's just allowing quicker energy restoration so that then we can give more energy when we want to do really high intensity exercise. I'm talking like a 10-second sprint sort of level. So this is even higher intensity than your anaerobic exercise. Because creatine helps your body make energy quickly, especially doing short, intense activities like sprinting or lifting weights. Creatine is taken into muscle cells through special transport proteins, and it's changed into phosphocreatine by an enzyme called creatine kinase. Some creatine also gets into the brain, which is why we're lately thinking that higher doses can help with brain function. So let's look at some of the benefits and potential risks. So we get improvement in muscle performance, possible injury prevention and recovery. We're thinking more that it helps with cognition. Women have a lower baseline phosphocreatine level than men, so it is thought that they will have a greater benefit from supplementing, and research is suggesting that it may help with menstruation as well. But the things to be aware of also is to consult your doctor if you have any impaired kidney function. It may unnaturally raise creatine levels, which may mislead doctors to thinking there's been a decline in kidney function. So if you're getting your kidney function tested with your bloods, make sure you let the doctor or the person taking your bloods know. When it comes to pregnancy, any supplements that are not deemed absolutely necessary, we would just say to avoid just for safety. And I have had some patients who've had some side effects from creatine, mostly potentially stomach upset, such as bloating or loose stools, but you will naturally, because it retains water, typically gain a little bit of weight as well. So let's have a quick look at some of the good studies around creatine. It's pretty well established that it confers a benefit and is really safe, but there are some interesting things that we've gleaned from some of the data that's out there. So this systematic review said that creatine enhances muscle performance by boosting phosphocreatine stores, leading to a 5 to 15% improvement in power, endurance, and muscle growth, especially in high-intensity anaerobic activities. It also increases water retention in muscles, which may support recovery and size. Then another systematic review and meta-analysis here says that creatine supplementation may enhance certain aspects of cognition, such as memory, attention, and processing speed, especially in individuals with diseases, females, and those aged 18 to 60. And the effects on executive function, so how your brain plans and organizes itself and manages its emotions, are not fully understood yet, but more and more data is suggesting that there is a benefit on cognition by taking creatine. But although the data are pretty positive, it's not just a panacea or a silver bullet. There are some circumstances where it may not be as beneficial as we thought. For example, if you look at this systematic review and meta-analysis, it shows that creatine doesn't necessarily improve performance in trained athletes doing endurance exercise. It says that some benefit may occur for untrained people taking creatine whilst they're trying to train for endurance sports, but generally for endurance sports, it's not particularly beneficial. And then talking about the cognition, there's this study suggesting that people who already have high levels of phosphocreatine in the brain may not really have an increased benefit in their cognition from having supplement to take it, beyond the normal physiological level. So if they already have a good level, then there's no real added benefit from them supplementing for their executive function, like we said before. Now, finally, one of the most important things is how should you take it? Well, the most bioavailable form for creatine is a powder that's mixed in with a liquid. It's really important to remember that it should be one ingredient, which is creatine monohydrate. Now, if you go to the Health Mapping website, like I said, I created that supplement database, and I will recommend some good brands that you can use to have the best possible powder. I have no affiliation to them. It's just me doing research and testing to help you find out which ones you should get. These days, the standard recommendation, although check for yourself what's right, is 5 grams. You don't have to do what they used to think before, which is a loading dose, which is like you have loads at the start to build it up and then have a maintenance dose. 5 grams seems to be okay. However, those studies looking at cognition are looking at much higher in the 20 region grams, but again, check that for yourself before you start taking that sort of level. So if you want to decide whether you should take any supplement, check out this video here where I have a framework that you can apply to anything to help you decide whether it's right for you being the most important part. Also, here's a playlist of me going through some of the common supplements to help you make that decision yourself. Otherwise, if there are any others that you would like me to do a video on, pop them in the comments below and I'll happily do that. But otherwise, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.